Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Games to the Max. I'm your host Sean Garmer here with me as usual, Mr. Mark Morrison.
Howdy.
And all right, we have plenty to talk about today. Of course, some terrible news for the people actually working at these studios. Warner Brothers Games Division has delivered the big blow that kind of felt like it was like the last piece of the dreaded bad news puzzle for them. That we'll talk about here, closing three studios and canceling the Wonder Woman game that we had just got done talking about last week. And
Yep.
then also we've got I've finally checked out some Avowed. Marcus has gotten to the end of Ayuden Chrono 100 Heroes. I beat Like a Dragon Power Yakuza, so we'll talk about all those. You got the Pokemon Presents stuff. Fable has been delayed to 2026 and more. All that right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way here with the housekeeping. Just letting y'all know, in case you didn't watch or listen last week, we will not have a show for 2 weeks because I'm going to Puerto Rico. So we will be back on Saturday, the 22nd, with at least one episode, if not two, if there's not like a ton of stuff to talk about, so we don't have to have like a 3 hour thing. Plus, I know we'll have some games to talk about. Mark will have Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'll have Xenoblade Chronicles X. I probably won't get to play Split Fiction until the week after. But I will play a few indie games and also the Suikoden HD remastered as well. Both of us are going to be playing those. So we'll have some things to discuss there as far as gaming goes. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be gaming news to go over and stuff like that. So as far as the usual stuff, if you have been watching us for a while, we appreciate you either way, even if this is your first time. That's awesome. Thank you. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow wherever it is that you watch or listen. We do this show live around 8:30ish on Mondays. So you can watch us live if you subscribe to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, W2 Network, or you can just listen on demand on podcasts or watch on demand later on YouTube as well. If you enjoy what you see here and you like what we offer, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can get our other shows. If you like anime, we got our weekly anime show, Otaku Cafe. They do a great job of breaking down all of the weekly anime stuff as we're getting it close to the end of the winter season. And then you got the Router Broadcasting people that do all the movies, entertainment stuff. They just had the Oscars on Sunday, so I'm sure they will have some thoughts with that, along with whatever movies are coming out soon while we're gone. So, all right, that's it for the housekeeping. Let's get into some video games here. All right, you got to the end of Ayuni Chronicle.
Yep. Yeah.
That doesn't sound.
I mean, the story's fine, I guess. But I was trying to, about halfway through, I decided to, like, let's see if I can actually get all the trophies in this thing.
Right.
And then 40 hours later, like I'm like, oh god, no.
Yeah, played through it all.
There are three wonky mini games in that thing. First is, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, a Beyblade ripoff, like the spinning top battle game. Remember that?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's like 40
Wow.
people to defeat in that, or like 50 maybe or something. And you got to like collect them all also. So it's like, a few trophies for that. There's one mini game where you're like, it's not time, well, it's not like a lap race, but you're like doing like a time trial with this like this ship thing.
Yeah.
And it's slightly bugged because the analog sticks or the analog control sticks are inverted. So you press left and it goes right. And it's like, huh, that's not supposed to happen.
For sure.
So you can only use like the D-pad, but you have to hold up constantly to like. There's no like acceleration button. You just have to hold up. So that sucks. Having to like hold up and then like feather left and right to make turns. But the absolute worst was this fucking card game where it's like a mixture of like Pokemon and what's the Marvel one? Marvel not Heroes. The TCG Marvel game.
Oh, Snap, Marvel
Snap.
Snap.
Yeah, Marvel Snap and Poker, where you have like 3 battlefields and you put cards down and you're trying to make pairs or flushes or straights of like your cards. You have to beat to get the trophy for that one. You have to beat every single character that you collected. So you have to do that thing 119 fucking times. And it ain't a quick thing. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes per character. And one of the characters, your final character, Leanne or Lean, she's like busted because she gets like her magical power is luck. So she gets like the top tier cards and does like insane combos. So it took me about a half hour to beat her alone.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And again, you have to keep doing this over like 119 times, and there are other trophies that I didn't like. I'm going to play that game again because I can now just blow through it with the new game plus. But there's like a weird chocobo racing style mini game where instead of chocobos, they're like egg chicks, which a fat chocobo basically. But yeah, you're like breeding these chick eggs and giving them like special abilities and feeding them. There's a hot tub mini game. We have to get like 40 different character interactions. There's a play mini game where you find scripts and have different characters do like
Wow.
Romeo and Juliet and bullshit like that. There's another one trophy we have to unlock every treasure chest in the game. All 279 of them.
279.
Use a guide.
Jeez.
Yeah. There's one trophy that beat every enemy in the game, and it's like some of these enemies like don't show up correctly, or it's like one enemy in particular. It's like damage the baby enemy enough, and then the mom will show up, or then the adult will show up. And I said, oh my god, this is
Wow, that seems like they're just trying to make you play that game forever. Like,
yeah. And I was like, yo, this is not needed. Like this would have been a very good 40-hour game, or to include some of the mechanics from Suikoden 2. Like Suikoden 2 actually does have kind of, it's not like Beyblade, but it is like this like weird
yeah.
dice poker mini game thing. I think it's called Potch, or I think that might be the money, but like you're like throwing tiles in this like bowl. I remember that. But it's like you only got to do that like a handful of times. One of the things in this game is in Iron Chronicle is there's a trading mini game where you can like buy specific items from trading posts. Like, oh, buy the paintings from this one town and then sell it at the other town and you'll get money. And it's like one of the trophies is get 1 million gold for doing trading. It's like, why? Like, I can make money in this game just by battling, no problem. Like, why do I have to do this BS? Overall, I liked it. I don't think the soundtrack is nearly as good as Suikoden 2, though, unfortunately. But
Well, yeah, that's a high bar.
well, they got the woman back. I mean,
Yeah.
it should. I mean, I think it's probably more a matter of like they might not have the money for like a full orchestra, or she might not have time to do it enough, or whatever. But they had a lot of voice. They actually have a good amount of voice acting though, so that's all right. But yeah, I'm happy to be more or less done with it until I do some trophy cleanup and lose my mind some more. And The other thing I played or attempted to play, and then you can get into your stuff, is The Operative. No One Lives Forever.
How did that go?
Not well. I actually bought a copy of the game. It was like $15 on off eBay. I never really played it before. I think I played like once, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and I didn't really get it at the time. So I was like, I want to give this an honest shot. Bought a copy of the game, put it in my DVD drive, wouldn't install because it requires a 32-bit version of Windows, and I don't have that. I have 64-bit.
Dang.
And I looked online, and there's a 3 helpful files, which are basically the entire game. Nulf 1, 2, and Contract Jack updated to like run on like modern Windows for free, like
Yeah.
off some site. And it's like, yeah, this is why I'm trying to do the legitimate thing. And I mean, it's not a new copy, but I'm trying not to go the pirate way. But unfortunately, the pirate way is the only way I can play this damn game. You know,
Yeah, sometimes you gotta live that pirate life, you know.
yeah. And then I played for like 5 minutes, and I didn't have it kept my resolution on this. Like it kept screwing with the resolution, where like the right side kept getting cut off. So I got to fix that at some point. But it's an off, and I'll like it.
Yeah, fair enough.
How's Pirate Yakuza? Did you beat up Samoa Joe?
Yeah, so I got to I'm done with it. It was 5 chapters in the end. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I spent like 45 hours in that game, or I think closer to like 50 hours. Did pretty much all the ship tournament stuff, and I did almost all of I did all the sub stories. You definitely need to go do the Minato Girls sub story if you get this game, just because it is so not what you would expect. And yeah, that's the only tease I'm going to give for that. And then, it's fun. I wish, like I said, Trip Traversal was a little bit faster, but aside from that, I love the little side story with the Devil Flag leader stuff. That was fun. I did all of that stuff too. That's pretty hefty as well to go through. Yeah, the treasure hunting stuff is not anything out of this world. It kind of all gets samey after a while because it's just going through a bunch of, it's almost like essentially dungeon crawling just so you get to the end. But the combat's so fun, and playing as Majima's fun that like you kind of just forget that part. Really. And I enjoyed the story for what it was. It definitely serves you to have played, or at least do like I don't know how long you can. I don't know if there are story recaps out there for Infinite Wealth. But it definitely,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like some 20-minute YouTube video that gets like the main points. That's all
you don't need to, if you just want to know like the gist and go ahead and play this, you could definitely do that. You don't need to go play the whole entirety of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I mean, I would say you should, just because that's a great game in itself. But I know there's people that don't like the turn-based, even if they try to make the turn-based as beat 'em up as they could this time around. Yeah, just it's really enjoyable, and you don't have to spend 45 hours on it if you don't want to. You could really just mainline that game and be there for 20. Just it's that whole, you're also paying full price for the game, so you get what you want to spend out of it, honestly. Also, I had no idea until I got to like the 3/4 part of the game that this was a deluxe edition that came with the code. So I did not know that I had all of the DLC.
Yeah.
And because it gets to a point where you're like, you run through all of the crew members you can get. And so I'm sitting there like, I want to keep seeing the number go up for some people, because eventually, you level up everybody and they don't go up anymore. So I was like, oh, let me see what's going on with the DLC, And I was like, oh wait, I have all this stuff, and then like, oh, here's Kiryu, and here's Ichiban, and all these other people.
Here are the really broken characters.
Yeah, and so like, then it made it just really fun because you could just breeze through all of the ship battle stuff, because they just kick everybody's ass, and it takes a while for people to kill them. I still had some close calls, a couple of times where like I was left with just Majima against like 10 people, and that was fun. to go through too. But yeah, totally give my endorsement. Like I said, I did part of the review out there. I gave it an 8 out of 10. So definitely go check it out. Speaking of an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game, Avowed, also getting that kind of love from people, even though there's a lot of people that are upset, as there usually is. Most of that has to do with console warrior stuff. Not necessarily people that actually give a crap about Avowed.
Right.
One way or the other about whether it's like being dumped on or what's funny is like a 7 to 8 out of 10 is not being dumped on, bro. Go read reviews and go try to find what it was like for a game like Forspoken when that came out. Talk about getting that game got dumped on. Avowed did not get dumped on. Okay. Maybe it didn't get 9. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say it's Forspoken is something I actually kind of liked. So
yeah, exactly. You liked it. I ended up liking what I played from PS Plus. Like, it wasn't this terrible game that a lot of people made it out to be, and it feels like the people that are hating on Avowed are just wanting to hate on it, and most of the people that did a review actually gave a normal critique of it, of like, this is what I didn't like, this is what I did like. This is why I wound up giving it a 7 or an 8 or whatever, which is still a great score. And also, this game's on Game Pass. You don't have to go buy it. You can just subscribe to Game Pass and play it for a month, and you're good. It's unless you have a PlayStation, then whenever it does come to PlayStation, you got to make that decision. But like, you got an Xbox, you got a PC, you got your phone, you play it on there, and it'll all just be fine. As far as like the actual game, I'm not that far into it. I think I've played about like 4 or 5 hours. It's very easy to go and explore things in that game. So, I've gotten to like the next main, like I got through the tutorial area or the like land that you're in for the tutorial section. Beat like the first, like, I don't know if that's considered a boss or mini boss, whatever. And then got to like the Paradise, which is the main place that you're supposed to go to continue the story. And as soon as like they receive you, that's where I'm at. So I met some character there that becomes part of my party, and then that's it. The combat's fun. I love using whether it's the spell book and then having the sword in the other hand, and you can also change it if you don't like first person. You can't change the third person. So I know that's a problem for some people with some of these games where you don't like the first person view. That they do give you the option. And they character creator doesn't seem like extremely in depth, but it's deep enough, and you can still create some decent characters there. I'm not a big let me do a million created character section. I picked being a scholar for whatever that's worth. But you can still, it doesn't seem like it limits you on the weapons you get to use. So you still can use whatever you want, like because you can build them out based on like the point system and whatever, and you can respec if you want to. So I enjoyed the heck out of the game. It feels good to like block with the shield and hit him with the sword after, or the dagger, or whatever you want to use. And yeah, I've been enjoying that and just kind of exploring, and I'll look forward to when I get back, see if I play some more. But of course, I'm going to walk into a bunch of games I got to play, so we'll see if the next time there's a dead period, if I go back to it or not. But that's going to be for a while, because then you got a game, the game I've been waiting for the whole year. It just got a bunch of previews today. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Looks like everybody's loving it, so I can't wait for that when you get to April. Plus, you got South of Midnight and all that other stuff that's coming in April too. So, but yeah, I wanted to play it a little bit just to kind of give some thoughts on it before I left, and then perhaps ran into other games, didn't get to play it at all. So,
right.
But all right, that's enough for the games that we've been playing here. Let's get into the news. The games we cannot play because two of them were a game we were not going to play, period, anyway, just because we don't play those kind of games. But the other one does have games that both of us played. I think you didn't you review Shadow of War?
Yeah.
And then, talking about Monolith Productions there, of course, I'm talking about Warner Brothers and what they've decided to do. It happened the day after we did the podcast. Those things happen per usual. We do the show on Monday. On Tuesdays when all the news decides to happen, and then we have to wait a whole week to talk about it. So I'm sorry if this is old for a lot of people. But first thing should note that Jason Schreier broke the story from Bloomberg that Warner Brothers confirmed news that they are not only shutting down Player First, which they just acquired last year because Multiversus was doing so great that they decided, oh, you know what, we're going to go and stop, having the game in beta, and we're going to have it come back way later, and then people are not going to care about it anymore because, that's how things work in the games industry. Let's just have things go away, and then think people are still going to want to play it when it comes back. Not to mention it was in worse shape when it came back than when, it was in beta.
Hey, it has happened before. That's been well. Like look at Final Fantasy 14.
That's different though. That game sucked. It's not like Multiversus sucked when it was first there. It was serviceable. It was good. People liked it, and then they took it away, and then they made it worse, and then didn't give people the characters that they wanted or promised or whatever that whole spiel goes. And then they go, oh, the game's getting delisted in May, even though apparently you can play it offline, thankfully. But still, that whole studio that was bought because of that game last year is now gone. So is the support studio for that game, and they supported for other games as well, but they mostly did kind of like mobile stuff, and they were working a lot with Player First on Multiversus. Was the WB San Diego studio, and of course the big studio that has been closed down. They were working on the Wonder Woman game that we just talked about last week was being rebooted or had been rebooted because they couldn't figure out how to do the reverse. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that it was actually the reverse Nemesis system. They were trying to make it to where everybody becomes Wonder Woman's friend, and then you go out. And I don't know how that was going to work if she's amassing an army for herself or
the friendship system.
Yeah. So they couldn't make that work. So it's supposed to be a God of War style game now. So more traditional, like action based of Wonder Woman. Still don't know how that was going to work because again, it's not like Wonder Woman has like amazing list of villain characters.
Like her main bad guy is Cheetah. It's like, ask 100 people, hey, what is Cheetah? Or what are her powers? And like Catwoman, or
she also has a lasso too, right? So the thing is that regardless of that, they did it because the first movie did amazing, so they wanted to make a game.
It's funny because that second movie has Cheetah in it, like she's the main bad guy, along with
but people didn't like that movie, so
Jens is a huge Wonder Woman fan for some reason. Even he hated the movie. So,
of course, that also came out during the pandemic, which people.
That doesn't matter.
Well, I think a lot more people would. If that movie had come out in theaters, I think it's maybe a little bit different. Than everybody and their mother, sister, brother, whatever, can now sit down on the couch and watch this. A lot more people having more opinions than I think if it would have come out in the theater. But even then,
believe me, I think if Jens had spent like movie theater pricing to see that movie, he would have been more pissed.
Yeah, maybe, but I think there would have been less people watching it overall because maybe people would have been doing the whole thing of just, I'll wait till it shows up on HBO and then I'll go to the theater and watch it. But still, regardless, that's like 3 years ago. The whole point is that they initially rebooted it, or they initially were still working. They announced it in 2021, like not that long after that movie had come out. So you're announcing it when people aren't that hot on Wonder Woman after 1984. And then, so the game's coming. Then they can't figure this out with the Nemesis system, whoever's fault that is, whether it's, the developer's fault, whether it's the studio head's fault, whatever it is. And then they announced just recently that they had recently gotten rebooted. And then all of a sudden, okay, I guess somebody looked at it and said, well, you know how long it's going to take for that to actually come out? It's not worth it. And then they just canceled it. And not only canceled the game, they closed one of their most prolific studios that has made two amazing games in Metal of Earth. Well, okay, Shadow of War, or not Shadow. Was it Shadow or was it what was
Shadow
the
of War
second
is
game?
bad.
Shadow of War.
First
Okay.
one is Shadow of Mordor.
Okay, Shadow of Mordor was the loved one, which was up for
Yeah.
Game of the Year and everything. Of course, that wasn't, the hottest year in games ever, 2014. And then 2017, the problem was that that's when we had all the stuff with like Battlefront 2, where everything had to be a loot box and all that stuff. They took that stuff out, so Shadow of War ended up being an actually better received game, but they were the only two to use that Nemesis system, then got patented by Warner Brothers, and then never, I guess it's never going to get used again. And then they also had those Fear games before that, which were also,
I could see Warner Brothers selling that Nemesis system. They could use some money.
Maybe, or will they let people use it and still get the patent so they get a royalty out of it or whatever it is that they want to do with that?
Right.
They never really showed. They never showed footage, right? It was just like showing you the player model of Wonder Woman, and then that was kind of it. Like
I don't think they showed. They didn't even show a model of her. I don't think. Like,
well, yeah,
like,
there's the cover art or the key art with her.
Right, but
then,
that's not like in-game footage or in-game model. It's just like, hey, this is kind of a target render, or it's not like it's going to match up 1-to-1 or anything.
Right. So I mean, it's weird that like this is what it's come to. I don't know why they couldn't figure out anything else to do. I get it that they don't own the Lord of the Rings license anymore, so they couldn't have them go back to that. Not sure.
I mean, it ain't like whoever owns Lord of the Rings.
Embracer,
Embracer's doing a hot job with that thing, and
Well, I mean, I don't know if because Amazon technically has a game studio, would they have to like then sub-license it from Amazon to be able to do that? Like, how does that even work? Because they made that deal with Amazon where technically Amazon has like all the rights to that for a while, at least while Wings of Power is still going on. So, and then supposedly there's like movie reboots or whatever going or whatever it is that they're going to do with that. So yeah, like they can't necessarily go back to that. Apparently, according to people that in Drason Schreiber's report, they're not interested in new IP. So, like we talked about before, I think it was Zaslav and the CEO that just resigned, who is really to blame for a lot of these decisions, right? Because he was there for 10 years, so he's the person that was there during the glory time of the the two great Monolith games. He's there with the Hogwarts Legacy stuff. He made the decisions all throughout, and really like Avalanche just got basically given Harry Potter because they really didn't know what the heck to do with it. And then they make this great game, and now it's funny to think about. Avalanche is probably perhaps the most secure studio out of anybody else that's around outside maybe NetherRealm.
No, I would say NetherRealm is the most secure one, but Avalanche is up there because they have to make Harry Potter 2 now, or
right, for sure. Not to mention they're supposedly extending the original Hogwarts Legacy or whatever.
Right. I mean, here's one of the big bummers is like their whole like loot box driven mantra has even ruined like Mortal Kombat. Like,
the live service.
People shouldn't have to like. People like. I mean, it's different with cosmetics because they don't matter. It's just how the character looks. But like in Mortal Kombat, the cosmetics aren't cosmetics; they're actual pieces of gear, which have tangible effects on characters. So you equip like a stronger pair of gloves or a mask or something that's gonna make your character stronger. That's not great, or that's not like really fair. There might be like some mode that like maybe does away with all that crap, but it still is at least like kind of there, which isn't good. The quote from not Zaslav but the other guy about like, oh, we're gonna keep this. We're going to focus on Mortal Kombat, DC, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones. It's like, first of all, isn't Wonder Woman part of DC? Or
Yeah, and then like you had they had to include DC because Batman, right? Rocksteady's working on Batman.
Right. And then also like Game of Thrones. It's like, yo, that's like, what are you gonna do with that? Like,
I mean, technically, I guess they could do a House of Dragon game since that is doing well.
But like, even like, I mean, I think the only good like Game of Thrones game kind of was like the Telltale one, and even that wasn't like great. It was just kind of functional
Yeah,
enough.
it was fine.
But like, I don't think Game of Thrones lends itself at all well to like a video game property or
unless they're
like
doing
that.
a strategy game, right? And they already have that on mobile. So like, do you really need a console version of that? It's
get the Creative Assembly, make it Game of Thrones, Empire of War.
Yeah, because I mean, like, unless you're and there's some people that have tried to do like dragon games. Wasn't there like that Century of Ashes game or whatever not too long ago?
Yeah.
They could do something with it, but it's just like, that's such a TV show medium, right? That it's like, who do you choose to decide to be the main character, or do you just have like a random nobody that just interacts with people from the known universe or whatever?
Here's this whole new character, or here's a created character that somehow is pivotal to all these TV show scenes or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, how many of the TV actors can even get back for this thing? I mean, it'd just be voice acting, but still, like,
they got them for at least they got the likeness for the mobile game that I saw they were promoting during House of Dragon, but that probably cost a lot less than if you're doing a full on game. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, I mean, I get it with it's just, I don't want to keep belaboring the point that I think we've made every time we talk about the Warner Brothers stuff, but it's sad, man. It's sad yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention, well, two things. First of all, I mean, that's kind of why I bought Nolf. Is I like Monolith well enough. Like you mentioned Fear, I like Condemned more, but they've had a very long history of making good stuff.
Condemned,
and they weren't like, I think Shadow of Mordor is kind of the exception. They weren't like top tier AAA studio. They're more like the B studio or B tier, which is fine. But unfortunately, that has really gone bye over the past like decade. And think about like all the studios that made Yen's pointing this out, all the studios, or most of the studios that made like your favorite games on like the 360 are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like THQ, Monolith, other Konami basically, or like more or less. And the other problem is they're going to focus on DC, which you said means Batman, but like they want a Superman game. They do, but it's like, how do you do that? Or like,
I feel like the time to make the Superman game would have been you're done with making Batman and you have Rocksteady make a Superman game.
Yeah, but like, well, the time to make Superman, it would have been started 4 years ago, and then to get David Corenswet to do the voice acting. But like, from a gameplay thing, it's like, how can you make a Superman game with the guys like literally immortal, or like more or less?
Yeah.
And then like, look at like all the DC, like look at the Justice League. Like, aside from Batman,
technically they had a Flash game, right? But they got canceled because the movie sucked or whatever.
But like Batman, Green Arrow, maybe not Mockingbird, Black Canary. It's like, those are just like regular people more or less. But like, how would you make a Green Lantern game and have it like have it be like what you would want it to be, not just some like crappy platformer action game? Because like most of the DC characters, like I said, functionally immortal, or are like so powerful that like Yeah, how would you make a Flash game? Have him stop a robber? It'd take like a second. Like
Yeah.
no. Or just have him break his leg or something so he runs like a normal speed for most of the game.
I bet it would be something where he starts off as like a normal guy, and then you kind of like get his powers gradually, or something like that. Like they have to have a way to like make that game extend itself, right? And
But
to
like
have a story.
that's not. I mean, that's the thing about like Marvel characters is, for better or worse, a good chunk of them are powerful, but like they are. Like, Spider-Man isn't like invulnerable, or even Wolverine. He kind of is, but they made a decent game
Right.
about him. Or the X-Men, or Iron Man or Captain America. Like there's a lot more to do with them, or they could do theoretically with those characters than most DC characters. The one exception I saw was a guy suggested, I think it was Timur from GameSpot, suggested like a Constantine game set up like Alan Wake.
Yeah.
And I was like, that might be interesting, it might be doable, but like Constantine is like such a like C tier hero, or like he's barely not a hero, and then B, like who's gonna like devote a $60 million project to him? Like,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
I like Constantine. I really liked the Matt Ryan TV show version of him, and that's that stuff. But like, they're not gonna make a Constantine video game. Let's make it this license Echo the Dolphin and replace Echo Sprite with Aquaman, and there you go.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It just they're a mess, and this is
Yeah.
I can't say that this is the final dagger in all of it, because it's like they could turn around tomorrow and
They
just
could close. I mean, they could
yeah.
close NetherRealm. They could just be like a run of games entirely. Although I think
No,
they probably
I
just
don't think
sell
they would.
NetherRealm.
Like that's the thing, is like, okay, when we had rumors of like Microsoft and other people wanted to buy them, if they wanted to sell, that was the point, to sell, right? When you were
Right.
actually on a high at some point, and not now where it's like you're almost at you're at like, are you worse than Ubisoft? No, you're better than Ubisoft because you have a bit more franchises that people actually want, but then people aren't going to get those IP. So it's like you're getting the studios. Well, they're not going to
Right.
get to take Harry Potter and DC and all that with them, and Lego and all that with them. So supposedly the next Lego is another Lego Harry Potter. So that's what they're doing. We know there's more Harry Potter coming, because that's Avalanche is doing great with that. Mortal Kombat's fine, and there'll be another Mortal Kombat because they got another movie coming out. I'm sure that will do okay. And then they'll have Mortal Kombat 12 or whatever, or Mortal Kombat 2 or whatever the heck they're gonna call it, because of what they call this one Mortal Kombat 1. So like
Mortal Kombat's another good example of not giving people what they want, because for years people have said, "Hey, put out Shaolin Monks, make an HD version of it, or like port it over." And nope, screw off. And it's like, why are you resistant? Like, it's such a small. It's not like you're making a new game. It's such a small like investment, like to port this thing over. Like, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah. You have to think they were so stuck on that live service. Live service is the way. And you can understand why. It's the same thing about Sony's going after it, because man, if you get one of those to hit, you are just raking in money.
If only one hits out of 15 or whatever, it's like, that's okay. Look at the average. You just like.
But that doesn't guarantee anything, because look what we just said about Marvel Rivals, and they fired like a few people that were not in China, obviously,
right?
But like still, right? Warner Brothers could still, yeah.
Even if it quote unquote hits, it still may be seen as like some internal failure or something.
Well, it's also like they talked about. He said he almost considered not even having the Marvel license with it, because it cost so much money that it's too much.
I can guarantee you, if that game didn't have the Marvel license, it'd be like not even a third of what it is now.
Oh yeah, for sure. They apparently they played around with the idea of having their own characters, and it was like, yeah, dude, yeah, good luck with that. You know, it's just you have to think with whatever the new person in charge is going to decide to do now. Hopefully, if what they're doing with Rocksteady is the way forward, we're going to go back to single player. Get some wins behind us, with actual IPs that people want. Then you can branch out again, whatever it is you want to do. But it's like it's still a lot of these big publishers are still recovering from what to do after the pandemic and the overhiring and all that stuff. And now it's like, I hope that there's not some other game that was in the works at some point that leads to some other studio getting axed. But
you won't like what I'm going to say, but I don't think Rocksteady's going to be long for this world either. Like, okay, they claim they're making a new Batman game. It's not like they can just pull that out of their ass in a year. Like, that's at least 3 to 4 years off, if not more. So, do you really see WB like giving them that much runway to make a hopefully good another Batman game? No.
I feel like you kind of need to, right? Just to see if you have, because if you're canning them, what do you have? Are you really going to bank everything on Mortal Kombat? They said that they want to, if you want somebody doing DC, that's the studio you want doing DC, right? Like,
I would not anymore, because all the good people left. Just look at Suicide Squad. Even if that game didn't have like all the live service crap in it, it still wasn't like a good game.
Yeah, but it is because it has that live service crap in it. I mean, even Avowed was apparently a live service game at some point. Like, everybody's had their thing with the game.
Right.
That's why Dragon Age Veilguard was partially the way it was, because that had to get rescued from being live service as well. The other one too is like, what is WB Games Montreal doing? Because like Arkham Origins was fine, right? It wasn't beloved like the other two,
Right.
but it was fine. It's actually gotten like a cult following after a while. And then like Gotham Knights sucked. Or was,
I mean, it's still better than Suicide Squad, but yeah.
But still, like, the point is, and then they helped on Suicide Squad to kill the Justice League. So it's like, unless you're going to tell me, okay, they're going to help on Rocksteady with their next thing, but it's like, I mean, they're around there, and if you're trying to cut costs, I do not want to see that. I'm not saying please don't say that I don't want to see that happen. I'm just saying, if we're talking about the next ones that could be on the,
chopping block.
Is a man. I hope not, but I'm wondering if they're looking at them. I'm wondering if they're looking at Boston, or the ones that don't have the big names, the WB Games New York. Like, they aren't really working on these big time, and Traveler's Tales has like 3 or 4 different studios as well.
Right.
Could they possibly try to cut one of them? So that's the thing is, unfortunately, I hate seeing this for the developers and all that stuff, but man, it's just not great. We'll have to see, but yeah, they're gonna go all franchises all the time moving forward. So we'll see how long that lasts for
one cycle, and then when it flames out, they'll just blame everyone else.
Exactly. That's probably most likely the case. Also should have mentioned that Gail Simone, who's done a bunch of comic books issues for One Woman, said that apparently the game was beautiful, right? The game was amazing to look at, which, that was always something with the Monolith. They had some great looking games. It's just that everybody involved wanted to make the game great, She doesn't know exactly what happened with, why it wound up in the way that it was, but she said it wasn't for the lack of the dev teams involved, and yeah, that's usually the case, right? It's not the dev team doesn't care about what they're doing; it's the people that are making the decisions.
Yeah, they're not like rubbing their hands together and going like, "How can we make a bad game?"
Right? Exactly. They're not. It's just it is what it is at that point. But moving on. I gotta talk about Xbox again because Craig Duncan came on. They were doing, I think it was a Xbox podcast, and just announced randomly, just at the beginning of the thing, goes, "Oh, I'm gonna have some bad news. It's not what you want to hear, but everything's progressing great on the game. They showed some pre-alpha footage that does look actually pretty good, to be fair. But they're delaying Fable to 2026. So for sure, no Fable coming out this year. This is the
I'm making this magical prediction now. Around this time next year, we're delaying Fable to 2027.
I don't think so.
Okay, here's a problem with that story, or what you just said, kind of. They announced that game 5 to 7 years ago. They've been working on that thing since at least 2018.
Yeah.
How the fuck are they just now in a pre-alpha stage?
That's an interesting quandary about why.
I'm not saying the game should be done.
Right.
I'm not even saying like beta, but like pre-alpha is basically like, oh, we got like 1% of it working. It's like, what are you guys doing? This ain't rockets. Like, you guys, I mean,
well, no, I mean, they have to have more of it done than they're letting on, because like if you're going to say that it was going to be put out this year, they've got to have more of it. They just like not really.
But again, though, then why? I got to show like the current version of it right now, but like pre-alpha is just insanity. I mean, yeah, they've been working this thing since 2018. It's like Playground Games, and it's like, yo, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah. No, you're right about that.
So yeah, what are you gonna do? Show another cutscene with Richard Iotti again as a giant? Like, show me some gameplay, some actual gameplay.
I mean, technically they did with this pre-alpha footage. I can't show it because Xbox doesn't have like an official thing for it for some reason. But like, it looked good from what I saw of it. Obviously, it looks more like definitely Fable went more realistic because obviously Playground is known for that.
Right.
Which makes sense in the end. But yeah, this was kind of I figured that something was going to get delayed. Like I said, I said this the last time when we talked about the developer direct, that if the whole rumor is that Gears E-Day is supposed to come, then it's supposed to come out this year, then I didn't think there was room for Fable.
Right.
Because like you don't want to have two of your banger franchises, which I'm sorry, he did not come out at the beginning of the podcast. He kind of came out at the end of the podcast, like after he kind of gave updates on all the stuff that was shown to the developer direct. Like basically at the end, he talks about the Fable stuff just to make that correction. But
yeah,
it always felt to me like we were going to get one or the other. We weren't going to get both, and also because, especially after they already announced, 2K is not the last time we heard something, which I think was last week. We talked about Grand Theft Auto 6 is still supposed to come out this year. I thought that by now we would have gotten, well, not technically not by now, right? They can still announce it in the middle of the summer that they're delaying it. But so far, it's supposed to come out this year. So if you're Xbox, and like a lot of other people are doing, where they're not really announcing their release date, especially if it's around September, October, November, because they don't want to run into that buzzsaw of Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out, and it doesn't matter if this game's on Game Pass or not. People will not give a crap about Fable. And it's something I didn't. We'll talk about it later. I think when we talk about like some interesting like stats that have come up about people, what games people are playing and stuff. But it's like I don't think we're in a realm anymore where you can go, oh yeah, your game is totally different than that game, so it's cool. It can come out then. Now it's like because of people having, because of Fortnite and because of the live service games that do exist, you don't have the room anymore where it's like, oh yeah, we can have 4 games all come out at once. And because they're all different genres, people will all spend time with them. Nah, man. Monster Hunter Wilds comes out. Whatever game came out the same week, ain't nobody talking about that game. Who cares?
Right.
Everybody's talking Monster Hunter Wilds. The same thing's going to happen when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. Nobody, not even, doesn't matter if it's Madden, if it's what other freaking big, huge game, Grand Theft Auto 6 will be the game everybody talks about for the next month, if not the rest of the year. Yeah. So, like, if I'm Microsoft and I've got a whole list of stuff coming out this year, this is the year I'm moving it away from the fall and doing the same thing I did with Avowed, where I move it into February or March, maybe.
Right.
So I don't think that that's the worst thing in the world. Is at least this year they have other stuff coming. It's not like what was it, 2022, where they had nothing. And last year, where they had Hellblade and then like nothing until Call of Duty came. So, and then they did a great job of like the rest of the fall holiday was full. But still, I don't know. It's just I do understand what you're saying. Like it is kind of worrisome about. Can you really afford for Fable's got to be like a critical darling? Fable needs to be a 9, right?
Right.
Or I don't think you can. I mean, sure, you can have some 8s in there, but for me, like Fable is one of your core franchises, right? Or it was.
That's the thing. It is.
Yeah.
That's a problem with Microsoft is they so devalued most of their core franchises that them trying to like resurrect them, it's like, I don't know about this. Like this is like smelling more and more like desperation.
Yeah, but I mean, at least the footage looks good. It's just that's the thing is stuff can look good now and then it doesn't look great.
Another good example is Perfect Dark. Like, hey,
yeah,
I want that game to be good, but we'll see. Like
that's had so much turmoil that.
Yeah, also made one of these in like damn near 20 years. So, or at least it has been 20 years. So yeah. Perfect Dark 0.
Another thing that was confirmed here is just like Crystal Dynamics is working with the initiative on Perfect Dark, Eidos Interactive is working, or is it Interactive or Montreal, whatever their name is, Eidos Montreal, I'm sorry, is people that are responsible for Arkham games are working with them on Fable. So it's not just Playground, it's also Eidos. And hey, I mean, if you want somebody that knows how to deal with combat, that's a team. I don't know how many of those people that actually worked on those Arkham games are still with this team. Right. That's the same thing I forgot to mention with Monolith is that Monolith is almost kind of like BioWare at this point, where it was like a shell of the people that were around when in the heyday. Right. So it's not like you had all those leads that worked on those games still there.
Right.
But you had some people. And still, either way, it's people losing their jobs. So that's the point of it. But yeah, we'll see. what happens with Fable. I'm sure they might have more to announce during the showcase, or maybe that means that we won't see it at all if they're announcing it now and not announcing it in June.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rush was to announce the delay now instead of. I guess they didn't want people maybe getting excited and pre-ordering if you wait later and later. I don't know, but it's just interesting that they announced it now and not. I guess they knew for. That's what makes me wonder is like, is there something wrong? Because it's like, if you already know this early, we aren't even 2 months into 2025, and you know this early it's not going to make it. Like, is there something going on there? Or is it really about giving it more time? So
No, there's something going on. I mean, like I said,
because I feel like when they announced the delay for Avowed, it wasn't that early.
Right.
You know,
well, there's already gameplay out there of Avowed, like legitimate, stuff, not just pie in the sky crap.
Yeah, so that was 7 months ago. So that was in August. So we knew the game was coming in a few months, and it was like, okay, we haven't heard much more about Avowed. We don't have a release date, but it's like, man, this game was 2025, and it's most likely going to be your fall game, and you're telling us in March that it's not coming at all this year.
Yep.
That is that. I wonder if we're going to have some kind of piece that comes out during the week that says more about it,
right,
or something. Somebody's going to have some kind of big news or whatnot.
Yeah, expose. Yeah.
I mean, I did see the Insider Gaming report today that supposedly the 2026 edition of Call of Duty is being developed for the next Xbox and not Series X. So already rumors are going around that there's been rumors for a long time that Microsoft would probably try to put out their new system before the PS6 for sure to see if they can make any kind of headway. Right. But it's leading a lot of talk about, does this basically confirm that they're going to try to make Xbox, whatever it is going to be, come out fall 2026? So we'll see. Maybe that all has to do something with that too, that they're trying to make sure they have enough stuff for 2025, which technically with all the stuff that they've announced but have no information on, or didn't show much of, they have stuff for 2026, but we'll see. All right, moving on from that to Capcom is obviously, if you didn't know, we talked about it already. Monster Hunter Wilds has come out, and of course, been the whirlwind that you expect it to be, right? Yep. It helped Steam break the 40,000, or was it 40 million? Record,
40 million, yeah.
40 million Steam concurrents, which is a record for Steam concurrent players, period. They had 1.3 million, I think, during the weekend, even with the PC version having problems. They're supposed to put a patch to fix that. That's like blocking story progression or whatever tomorrow. But with all of this wonderful news comes a change at the top, or one of the top positions. One of their producers is now going to be in charge of all of their gaming divisions. So that's a big move to all of a sudden, you've gone from being a Monster Hunter producer and Ryozo Sugimoto to now becoming the chief product officer as of April 1st. I guess why not, right?
It helps when the franchise you're heading up is, the golden goose.
Yeah, exactly. This is the one that's going to sell ridiculous numbers. If you have 1.4 million concurrent players, that means you already have 1.4 million sales
Right.
For sure, if not more, right? And in Japan that thing is going crazy right now. Not to mention, this is the most accessible version of Monster Hunter there is, so I'm sure that it will sell wonderfully here as well. I saw a lot of the complaints about people complaining about there's too much hand holding, and it's like, well, you could take that off, but whatever.
They're trying to make the game approachable to normies, because when a game is only catering to the hardcore, it doesn't sell nearly as well.
Exactly.
What do you expect? Like,
they want to have their Elden Ring moment with this, where this becomes the zeitgeist game for.
And it's funny because, like, if you compare Elden Ring to, like, Bloodborne, Elden Ring is incredibly easier or more approachable.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with like worlds sold like 25 million units, in total, right, between all these years.
Right.
But I mean, if you can get a strong surge already for Wilds, then are you thinking about playing? I know you liked Worlds well enough. Are you thinking about?
I don't have anyone that I like playing with me, and I'm sure their online system is still busted in some archaic way, or that is always how they do. So
we'll see. I haven't heard a lot of complaints about that necessarily. Other than the PC version issues, but it seems like other people are having. I always see the people in the Outer Haven Discord talking about joining up for a. The Outer Haven has their own thing, and they're I think Keith's actually talking to them right now. See if somebody wants to jump on. So, yeah, man, this is a good idea. It's a good idea, obviously, and Capcom's hitting on all cylinders. Really, they're not. I want to think of a franchise that's like come out recently that's failing for them. I mean, Resident Evil is. They can seriously go through all the numbers of Resident Evil, do remakes, and those things that keep selling. You got Monster Hunter, you got Street Fighters done well coming back. So Capcom
it wasn't a franchise, but that Dino Crisis fake game.
Oh, well, Exoprimal thing, that was terrible. But they're doing all right. They wanting to bring back some more of their old franchises. They're bringing back Onimusha, so bringing back Okami. So things are just going very nicely right now for Capcom.
Right.
Speaking of other franchises that are doing well, Pokemon always does well, obviously.
Never heard of it.
Trading Card Pocket, that free-to-play mobile thing that has 100 million downloads, by the way. I remember we talked about last year in October they passed $120 million in earnings. Who knows how much they have in earnings now?
Right.
And like that's doing great, even though they're apparently not going to put it into the that thing that they do every year where they do the actual physical card game tournament. They're going to keep that like kind of friendly for now. But really, there was two big announcements in this Pokemon Presents. One of them is they gave you more information on Pokemon ZA. And then the other is a new game that they announced, Pokemon Champions, which is essentially the battle version of Pokemon Go. Or well, not like that, but it's essentially this is also on Switch, but it's also going to be on mobile. So you can have mobile players playing Switch players. But it has that kind of focus of they want it to take off the way that the trading card game Pocket and the way the Pokemon Go did, where it's like, oh, this one's only on battles. So it's like Pokemon Stadium, but modernized.
Right.
Or whatever. And as somebody that loved Pokemon Stadium back in the N64 days, yeah, I'm good with there being a Pokemon Champions. I don't know. Did you see this at all? Did you?
Nope.
Care?
It's Pokemon, so I naturally ignored it.
You naturally ignored it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean the Pokemon ZA stuff was, I think, a bit different than I expected. Like you played Arceus, right?
No,
Oh, I thought you did. Never mind. That was just me then.
I've never played
Uh,
any. I only played like Pokemon like Red like once or twice maybe.
okay,
On
so
Game
you
Boy
haven't.
Emulator.
Okay. So what I loved about the getting ZA is that one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, Chikorita, is one of the starter Pokemon. You also get
You only like it because of a name, like.
no, I'm always a big grass Pokemon person. So for me, like Bulbasaur and Chikorita are two of my favorite starters. And then Totodile is also here. Cyndaquil is obviously not here because Cyndaquil was a
Racist.
starter in Arceus. No, Cyndaquil was a starter in Arceus, so that's why. So they picked Tepig for this, which is fine. He's from X and Y. So the thing that kind of is different about this compared to Arceus is that you're gonna catch Pokemon the same way, like where you actually do the throwing motion and all that stuff. But there's like designated areas, kind of like the wild areas, in some of the previous games where you're gonna catch Pokemon. They're not like everywhere, like the way Arceus kind of was. And then this one allows you to actually physically dodge with the Pokemon, something that people have been waiting to do in Pokemon games forever. Is when will you actually let me do stuff with the Pokemon or whatever? And also, Mega Evolutions are back.
It only
Which
took
that's
them
always a
to the
welcome sight here.
22nd game.
Yeah. So I mean, you know what? This is the power of this franchise, that you can dole out something that's been in like every action RPG for the dawn of man. Since like the Super Nintendo days, really. You can put it in a Pokemon game all these years later, and people will get excited about the fact that that is now in Pokemon. But then watch it not be in the Gen 10 games at all, because we for some reason still have to keep that only turn based. Yeah, I mean, Lumio City looks cool. I'll just have to kind of see. This is apparently coming late 2025, so maybe this will be the Switch's like last hurrah in November, which Pokemon games usually always come out in November, October. So, this being a Switch One game, the graphics don't look amazing or whatever, but it's Pokemon. As long as it doesn't run like the garbage that Scarlet and Violet ran, and then also like hopefully Switch 2 gives Switch 1 games a boost. So maybe if it does run not great, it'll run better on Switch 2. But I liked what we saw, but still need to kind of see more. We'll see if maybe that they show off a little bit more or whatever during that April 2nd presentation or whatnot. Or maybe that's when they reveal the Gen 10. I'd imagine they're probably saving it for then. Like if they're gonna do Gen 10, it'd be okay. It makes sense for it to be Switch 2 exclusive or whatever coming out next year. So that makes sense. Like that's how they did Arceus. They had Arceus come out at the beginning of that year, and then the Scarlet and Violet came out at the end, which is funny because Arceus wound up being the better game, but still. That was kind of it for the Pokemon Presents. They also have new Pokemon Concierge episodes coming. I like that little show on Netflix, so that's cool. I'm glad that is still existing for all that's worth. Something interesting that Matt Piscatella has been kind of putting out some stats recently that's not just the monthly NPD numbers. I think last week he had an interview with Greg Miller on Kind of Funny, and he talked about how anywhere from like 18% of people that consider themselves gamers that are not going to buy a game at all this year. I don't know how he's quantifying that, but that was his data. And then he said 30% of people are only buy one game every 6 months. So they're the Call of Duty, Madden, insert big game here that they buy, and they don't buy nothing else. game. And he says they're pretty much, the live service stuff is essentially taking away the situation that we used to have, which is, and he said, I think around like, let me see what the 40% of players on PS5 and Xbox played one of the top 10 live service games. He doesn't give a list of what is considered live service, but he does go on and note that the pool of potential players isn't getting larger, and the pay. He talks about essentially video game market spending, total players, and total hours all peaked in 2021, of course, during the pandemic. Pace of games being released has not slowed. As such, the pool of potential players isn't getting larger, and if many of them are spending a lot of time on the same 10 live service games, that reduces the amount of time being spent trying out other titles, in particular new releases. He says that it used to be the players would jump from big game to big game to some other games, but they were most often to move on to something new that they purchased. Now the live service games suck out a ton of available time, and it's hard to beat free if it's good. So here we are.
Yeah.
Like
my roommate got a PS5 Pro a few weeks ago. They not without the disc drive, and I was like, "What are you gonna play?" And he's like, "Destiny 2." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's not what I'm playing on the PS5 Pro, right?
Well, it's a good use of buying a $700 system to play a 10-year-old game, I guess. But he's happy with it. But it's like, and the problem is like a lot of live service games are basically like homework. Like I'm still plugging away at Infinity and Nikki, and it's like, I got 5 daily tasks, whenever I put it up for a day, or Assassin's Creed Valhalla has like there's like 1 or 2 daily missions that are usually bugged out that you can do per day. So a lot of games just have kind of like homework associated with them.
Yeah, I mean, and that doesn't include like I'm sure like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Genshin Impact, and
those are like
other,
my examples. Like take Fortnite, and it's like my Infinity and Nikki example. Like take that times 20, and that's Fortnite. Or
like people they're stuck on that, and especially like let's be honest, the kids, my daughter's generation, she's about to be 14. And even the younger, even the getting into past high school, right? College, you don't have, even if you're working a job, right? You don't have money to go and buy all these new games that come out. So if all your buddies are playing these free live service games, what behooves you to move from playing those games, right? Because you can still play with your friends. You don't pay any money. And then you can use that money to buy groceries. I mean, look at the price of eggs, for God's sakes. Not to mention rents that keep going up, or mortgages, or whatever other thing, your school stuff, insert other, life needed thing here. All that stuff is continuously more expensive, and games are a luxury, and if you have a system that, there ain't a new one coming for at least another 3 years or whatever. And even then you could play on your phone, you can play on whatever,
right?
And you keep playing these games. So there's nothing. And then, that also includes like GTA 5, which you can, if you don't even have to buy the actual version of GTA 5. You can just buy GTA Online and play that by itself. And then, you got League of Legends, Roblox, all that stuff. That's included in that too, that people just keep playing all the time. That's their one game and that's it. And, so that doesn't even include the sports games and all that stuff that you actually do have to buy every year to keep up with it. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. It also shows why Sony is probably still thinking about, like, they didn't cancel all their live service games because they're still hoping that one of these things hits, right?
I mean, I think having 1 or 2 live service games isn't like a bad idea,
right?
But having 12 and then having 9 of them bomb, like if these two, like even if the Horizon one, and let's say they keep another one on going, bomb, I think it's something end of Sony. But
no, they have other stuff, right?
They can't afford 11 more Concords, you know?
Well, that's why they canceled a lot of them so that they
Well,
don't
yeah,
have another
exactly. But like,
Concord. Right.
yeah, but like if they let it go on, or like these other like the other 11 go and they'll bomb horribly, it's like, well, then it's like worrying about Sony time, you know?
I think they really are banking on the Horizon one because I feel like they've already kind of got suspicions about Fair Games because they keep delaying it. So like to me, I feel like if that comes out or we get news that maybe that thing gets canceled or that kind of comes out to
I
a tepid reception.
I think they want
Yeah,
their Horizon thing to be like, you know, robot Monster Hunter,
exactly. Yeah,
and
that's what they
I
want.
I just don't think it'll work. I just don't think there's a ton of interest in the community. I think people actually like weirdly like the Monster Hunter fiction,
Yeah,
and people increasingly don't like the Horizon one. So that's kind of a problem.
yeah. Look at the what was it Wild Hearts, the EA one that came
Yeah,
out that like
I mean, I think Kyle liked it, or one of the guys you had on here
yeah,
really liked
Kyle
it.
liked
But
it. I kind of
yeah,
liked it, but it was fine. Like it was like it got attention for a week and then
right,
no one cared about it anymore.
yeah,
Right.
and
Um,
I hate to say it, that'll be that Horizon thing because it doesn't even have Aloy in it. Or I mean, she'll probably just be like some NPC character, like telling you how
yeah,
to hunt
probably.
or you know whatever. But like, it's not going to advance the Horizon fiction.
No, I'm sure it won't.
So
And I could see where maybe they do, but I don't think it's going to be this. They canceled the MMO, so it's like that's going to be a thing that like, oh, it might have some story in it, but they're still sitting there. This is kind of to
yeah,
get
it's
them to bridge to Horizon 3,
right.
you know.
It'll be like way out to the periphery, and it'll like Horizon 3 will be able to read your save and go, oh, you defeated the robot Brontosaurus. Good job. Here's a
Yeah,
trophy. Here's like
exactly.
an in-game trophy or something, and that's it.
But like you can see why, but it's like ever increasingly showing that people are kind of just it's weird because it's like okay, the normies have their game. They're not going to go unless you do something like Helldivers, where you get people and people had to pay for Helldivers. It's not a free game.
Right.
Unless you do something like Helldivers, where it's like you come out and yes, that had a first game, but it was an
But it was
indie
a
game, bro. It was
it,
not a yeah,
it, I mean, mechanics of it kind of are the same, but it's a
right.
wildly different shift from isometric to third
Well,
person.
even like even Power World, right? Like it has like 32 million people that have played that game now. Uh
Right.
which is insane for an actual indie, game. Uh and now it's on PlayStation as well, so like that helps. Like
Yeah.
you got to do something to that level even. And like
Right.
that is not easy to do. Right? That help obviously Power World is helped by the fact that it's like okay, the LA comedy kind of look like Pokemon and oh now they have guns and they're in a game genre that I think a lot of people wish Pokemon would do. Uh
Right.
which I still don't know why Pokemon doesn't do it. Like, dude, Pokemon survival game would make so much money. And it's just like, what are they waiting on? Like all these for all these like spin-off things that they do, it's like I cannot believe no one at the Pokemon company, no one at Nintendo is sitting there going, we should make a Pokemon survival game. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
they're
Like
worried about it would kill the Pokemon like regular turn-based games or something. I don't know, but it's just like
I just think they like to be like set in their ways somewhat. So
well, and also they probably have to have somebody that's not Game Freak working on that
right.
because like poor Game Freak, bro. They're supposed to be supervising on this whatchamacallit, the Pokemon Champions also, and it's like, man, these poor people, like it feels like they're always having to work on something. Like there's never a moment where they get it just a time off to recuperate.
Yeah.
So essentially it's almost like Pokemon itself is a live service. I mean, they have Pokemon Go, but just like as far as like even just the regular dev team of Game Freak, it feels like they just are almost constantly on the grind too. So, but moving on from that, just the rest of the stuff can kind of be a little bit on the quicker side. But just wanted to throw some of this stuff out there. Rockstar acquired a new studio which is a studio they worked with before on LA Noire, the VR case files, and even the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, which we talked about last week, wasn't necessarily great. They're called Video Games Deluxe. And now they are going to officially be called Rockstar Australia. So I'm sure they'll be helping with GTA 6 as well. Maybe this will help speed along some of the process. Make sure that game gets out this year.
Right.
Kenji Ozawa, formerly of Oka Studios. Of course, they were the studio that was closed by NetEase 5 days after Visions of Mana came out. One of the Ryosuke Yoshida went over back to Square Enix, whereas Kenji Ozawa decided to make his own studio called Studio Sasankwa, which he wanted to do it because he wanted to create an environment where management would take responsibility for the bad results rather than placing that responsibility on developers. Good on you for that. Would be nice if publishers did that more often. He says they're going to start out smaller and then eventually hopefully work their way up to doing PC and console games. We'll see how that goes. Long way till then. But hey, good to know that there's studios coming out in the time where it feels like constantly there's layoffs and studio closures. PlayStation Plus games for March. Dragon Age The Veilguard is your big headliner. I don't think anybody saw that coming. We're not even talking about PS Plus like the monthly.
Yeah, the high tier. This is like the essential. So I'll be playing that.
This is the one where essentially, as long as you keep playing for PlayStation Plus Essential, you own the thing. So like
that's $20 saved for me.
Exactly. That's what, 30, $40 saved.
Glad I didn't buy it a few weeks ago and it was $25. Then I'd be pissed.
Yeah. So, and not only that, you get Sonic Colors Ultimate and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga collection. Hey, three pretty good games in there.
Three pretty solid entries, I would say.
Yeah. After last month, people complained about, man, this sucks or whatever. They really came back and delivered in March here. So starting tomorrow, March 4th, you can pick that up, claim all those games, start downloading and playing them if you want. PlayStation VR 2 is permanently getting a price cut of $150, so it will now cost $400 US.
I mean, it's like way cheaper online right now. It's like $270.
Yeah, that's crazy. What, that's by itself without the Horizon Call the Mountain?
No, it's like the bundle, or it's some crazy bundle, but that's not like great.
But that's not Sony, right? That's like what, other stores?
Possibly.
So officially, just to make a point, Sony's officially this is now going to be its permanent price, $400. Which is, that's a great deal if you really like VR, you've been wanting to try it, and you like the first PlayStation VR and you wanted to play the second one. You can also get the Call of the Mountain bundle for the same price, which leads me to believe that they have a lot of excess bundles sitting around that they want to sell.
Yes, they do. Didn't they say they stopped making them?
Yeah, they stopped making PSVR 2s because of that. They wanted to sell the ones that they have. So apparently it did sell, this time 2 years ago, it had sold 600,000 units in the first 6 weeks, but then they haven't really talked about it since then. And then they paused doing the production of them in March 2024. So last year at this time, they stopped producing them because they had a big backlog of unsold units. And then, we're at where we're at today, where they have permanently cut the price. What do you think? You think this means we're at the? Do we get a PSVR 3 or?
No.
Yeah.
I don't even think we get like a new. I mean, we make it like a half offering of the Oculus, but they're the only ones keeping that dream alive, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, Sony is a tech company. They like making things, so it's like not surprising that they made the PSVR 1 did well for what it was. It's just PSVR 2 was like more expensive than the actual PS5. And then you have to own a PS5 to have this, so essentially you're spending like $1,000 $100 to have both of them if you don't have a PS5 already.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is being sold. It's used, but with a warranty from Amazon for $246, the bundle with Horizon and the Mountain, or sorry, just with Horizon, called the Mountain.
And now you see why Sony has that monopoly on their digital storefront is Amazon being able to do stuff like that. So, which they have a class action lawsuit from the Netherlands that is going on about the digital store again. That they have a monopoly on their store and that they're overselling the game. They're put cost too much on their store, but then you can go to Amazon and buy the physical version for way less.
But like,
yeah,
okay, but you're not beholden to the digital. Like, I mean, unless you buy the digital only version of the PS5, you're not beholden to that.
Like, right, but like, okay, so Steam can, Valve allows for you to buy. They have other stores that have Steam keys, right? That you can get deals with them, right?
Okay, this was on Kotaku a few days ago. They announced that like you can buy certain digital keys from Amazon to games that are delisted on Steam.
Right.
And it's like those aren't cheaper. Like, am I gonna pay $50 to buy Family Guy Back to the Multiverse for the stupid Steam key? I don't think so.
Oh, I agree. But I mean, Epic allows you to buy games off of other stores, and then you redeem the key on the Epic Game Store. Xbox allows you to do the same thing. You can buy a digital version of the Xbox game. Nintendo allows you to buy a digital version of the Xbox. Obviously, Nintendo games don't go on sale, so that doesn't really matter. But, still, you can buy you can go onto GameStop.com and buy Princess Peach Showtime, just the game digitally without having to buy Nintendo points if you want.
Right.
Sony stopped doing that in 2019. They just said, "I know we're not allowing Amazon to sell the same digital store code for cheaper than we can sell it on our store," and so they took all that stuff in house. They had the class action lawsuit that got thrown out. Essentially, let's see what this one in the Netherlands does, because there's always weird laws in Europe that kind of lead to this stuff sometimes actually going through.
Right.
We'll see what happens there, but it has always been interesting that like somebody's obviously just being smart, right? Like just why let other people undercut you when you can charge whatever you want on your store. You don't have to buy digital only if you don't want to. It's obviously the convenience of it. But if there is that idea of like, okay, well, I'm not paying to have this disc and you're not making the disc, you're not having to ship it to the store or whatever. Why are you charging me more? There could be a lot of things, including also not wanting to piss off those stores that still sell your games. If they find out that you're selling the game like $10 cheaper or digital because, whatever, Walmart will be like, well, why would I sell your game here if nobody will come and buy it here? So we'll see what happens with that, but just interesting that PlayStation VR 2 is where it is, where it's getting a price cut, hoping that people will actually buy.
Right.
Also, Twisted Metal Reboot has some interesting stuff come out about it. That it was a third-person shooter battle royale game, and it got switched over to another developer, and then obviously they canned it when not too long after Fire Sprite got their hands on it. Hey, it's weird because Twisted Metal actually has like a second season of that show coming. So people are actually kind of know what Twisted Metal is now and might have been interested in the game, but they decided to cancel it. So, it is what it is, I guess.
I don't know. That's like a weird. They didn't say car game. They just said third person shooter. So it's kind of
Well, third person shooter mechanics for the battle royale. So
yeah, but that's you could describe that like that's PUBG. That's Fortnite really. Like they didn't say it's going to be all being the car. It just said yeah, third person with battle royale. So it's like we're gonna be running around a Sweet Tooth or something. Like,
Yeah, maybe, who knows with them.
yeah, definitely the reason
Also,
why it bombed.
yeah, that's probably most likely why. I would agree there. Also, Konami did make a deal with Bloober Team to work on another game, which it's Bloober Team. We know what kind of games they make, so it's probably going to be Silent Hill.
Right.
It's got to be
Probably
the first
Silent
one,
Hill 4.
right? It's got to be the first one because Silent Hill 3 technically comes after Silent Hill.
Yeah.
You would imagine. Or could they possibly just work on 3 because it'd be easier to do because it's PS3 and not PS1? But I don't know. The
Maybe.
PS1 remakes are in style and vogue right now. So
Yeah.
yeah. Look, I'm all for it. Silent Hill 2 was great remake from them. So hey, why not? Give us all the Silent Hills remade and let people experience them all for that.
Right.
Obviously, it's going to be years and years since while we get all of them, but we'll see. Just to normally I wouldn't put this in here, but I did just because it is kind of a landmark thing for Switch Online. That we've never had a Switch Online game actually get taken off the service since Switch Online's been around, which has actually been one of the like cool things about Switch Online, which also kind of indicates why they go after some of the games they go after, right? Because who cares about like Ninja Boy, whatever, and Joe and
Right.
Mac, and so actually, Super Formation Soccer, as it's known in Japan, and then Super Soccer, as it's known everywhere else, is going to be delisted on March 28th. So you still have like the whole rest of this month to play it if you cared to play it at all. It's getting delisted. We don't know really why. They don't really say why. Kamiya made a joke apparently, Hideki Kamiya, about this is why we got to have Virtual Console.
Yeah.
which they have removed games from Virtual Console for too. So it's not like that was foolproof either.
But like, I mean, yes, but once you buy the thing, you pretty much always own it.
I agree with you. They should do what Xbox and PlayStation do, which is the retro games should be made available to buy separately.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to those. I understand with some of these games, maybe you don't know who to send the money to. As far as the developer,
You just keep it
or
in
the
a trust
publisher,
fund and let it accrue money until someone says, "Hey, I own that."
But maybe that'll allow for some of these games that will never appear on Switch Online because Konami wants to make their own collections, or whoever else, Capcom, or where they might let you have it piecemeal, the original version with the Virtual Console. That'd be cool if they announced that for Switch too, as like a thing of like, okay, we didn't have it last gen, but maybe, or with the Switch One, but we have now made the Switch Online even better with allowing you to buy those games piecemeal if you want. Obviously, they could just revoke all that with whatever console comes out next, and just who cares? They'll just kill the Virtual Console again, but hopefully not. But I agree with you, and I agree with Kamiya that it would be nice if you could do that. But at least the Switch Online is cheap, at least for the Nintendo stuff. You could pay $4 a month and have it and play those games, and then you just buy the expansion pack separately if you want to play the other ones. Speaking of bringing things back, they do have that PDP guitar controller that works for Fortnite Festival, and Rock Band 4 that released not too long ago. Now the CRKD is getting back into the whole guitar controller craze, bringing back the Les Paul, the one that was famous with Guitar Hero. They have two versions. One has like mechanical fretboard and Hall effect strum bar and whatever for $10 more, for $129, and then you can get the regular edition for $119. $109 if you get it for PS5, and $119 if you get it for Xbox. You apparently can play. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say Jens bought one.
Oh, he did already. Okay.
Well, he pre-ordered it, yeah, but he pre-ordered the expensive one, and I made fun of him a little because I'm like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with it? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'll play Guitar Hero or I'll play Rock Band, and I was like, yeah, okay. Like,
I'm definitely gonna get one for the Xbox at some point, because I want to be able to play Rock Band 4 again. Because my dongle broke, and it probably would cost me more to buy the dongle again than it would to buy one of these guitars.
Yes, it would. Like, the dongle's like $300 now or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I could buy 2 of these guitars and have it so an I could play with me, instead of buying the dongle to have the 4 guitar controllers that I have behind me to work.
Right.
I actually have the Rock Band 3 like pro guitar one back there too, which is weird because I can't use it anymore. But still, I'd have to pull out my 360, I think, to use that with the original Rock Band 3, which I do have, but whatever. Yeah, like this looks interesting. You can play Yarg and Clone Hero and Fortnite Festival with it, and you can also on the PlayStation side, you can actually play like every single Guitar Hero and Rock Band game ever. On the Xbox side, it kind of sucks. You can't play anything but Rock Band 4. But still, if you have Rock Band 4, you can play that on there.
Well, a lot of stuff, I mean, I don't think the whole library came through, but didn't Rock Band 4 import like most of the Rock Band crap?
Yeah, Rock Band 4 did let you import the other DLCs
and
the other set lists. Yeah.
Yeah, Jens bought the Xbox one because he was like, well, that's where all my content is.
That's exactly why I bought the Xbox as well. Yeah, because I had all my songs on there. So yeah, it does work with. It's officially licensed by Microsoft, so it does work with Series X and Xbox One, so you can play Rock Band 4. And they also do work on PC and phones as well, apparently. But yeah, it doesn't have the legacy of being able to play the Rock Band or Guitar Hero games. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much how like the PDP one works as well. So kind of take your pick, but this one looks cooler. So hey, if you like the Les Paul look, there you go. They're doing these again.
Yeah.
Nacon is doing another one of those Nacon Connects, and it's on Thursday. So I'll watch that before and my plan doesn't leave till 8:30, so I'll definitely check this out. They're definitely going to show us more Hell Is Us. That's a game I've been kind of interested in. That like looks like Dark Souls combat game that they're not really going to tell you how to go anywhere. It's not going to have any kind of waypoints or whatever. You got to figure it out. They had just announced during the week Edge of Memories, which is it's not a sequel. It's like a game set in the same world as Edge of Eternity, but apparently it's its own game with, I guess, similar playstyle, whatever. I kind of like the Edge of Eternity enough. It was fine for being on Game Pass. I don't think I would have went and bought it. They did do. There's people thinking that maybe they'll do another Terminator game announcement. Some people hoping for a RoboCop announcement.
A different Terminator 2 game than the one they just announced.
Yeah, not the one they just announced, not the Survivors one. A different Terminator as well. They might also show a Terminator Survivor suit as well. And then they have some other games we know they're working on, but they're not, kind of high profile. So we'll see. Also, Raven's Watch is in there as well. So, hey, Nacon has some interesting things. They apparently have games that they need to announce that we don't know about. So we'll see, I guess, what they're doing. Another layoff thing as well. Crafton also confirmed that Striking Distance, the people that did Callisto Protocol, and then the Redacted game suffered some layoffs. They didn't announce like an actual official number, just that they were shortening staff. The studio's still going to be around, but it's going to be a small team, and yeah, we'll see what game they make next. But still sucks to see. Of course, Crafton is also the group that got Hi-Fi Rush, and I can't think of the studio name right now for some reason. But yeah, they have them, so we'll see if we ever get an announcement on Hi-Fi Rush 2 or how far along, or how that is going, and now that the studio is working again.
You mean Tango?
Tango, yeah. Well, Tango doing Hi-Fi Rush. Whenever
Right.
if they ever get to announce a Hi-Fi Rush 2, however that's going with Crafton. So can use that PUBG money and other stuff to keep going with that.
Right.
But all right, that's pretty much it for this week's episode. I think I don't need to tell you that Split Fiction is coming out on Thursday. A lot of people are excited for that. The next Joseph Fares game. It's gonna suck. I can't play that until I get back. I was looking forward to playing that with Anaya, so we'll have to wait on that. Carmen Sandiego is coming to consoles tomorrow. It's been on Netflix mobile for a while, so you can play it on there too for free if you want. Age of Mythology Retold comes to PS5. This rhythm game called Everhood 2, which looks interesting, is coming out for Switch and PC on Tuesday. 2 Point Museum, which is the next 2 Point game, is getting a lot of great reviews. Not sure if you're interested at all.
I never played any of those 2 Point things.
Oh, you don't?
I think they're okay, but nope.
Yeah, it's getting good reviews, so that's good. Fragpunk, which I think is free to play, Xbox has been like promoting this multiplayer game a bunch on all of their showcases, so that thing finally comes out on Thursday. Sorry We're Closed, which is like a stylish survival horror game that I'm actually already pre-ordered. I'm waiting for it to come out so I can play it on my Switch on the plane. Probably. I showed it to Randy. He said he might look into it since he likes playing all the indie survival horror games.
Speaking of pre-orders, I finally got my Persona 3 portable limited run thing like last
wow,
week.
really? After all this time? My goodness.
After only like a year and a half.
That's nuts.
And I promptly put it in my closet, and I'll never play. I didn't even open it. I just put it in my closet, and it'll remain there for 20 years.
We'll see. They also Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remasters also come out March 6th, and they had a big live stream thing today. Konami did, and they announced like a bunch of crazy stuff. So they announced a stage play for Suikoden 1. They announced an orchestra thing for it's in Japan only. For Suikoden.
Before you continue on, all the stuff is only in Japan.
Yeah. Well, no, the mobile game I think will eventually probably make its way here at some point. There's a obligatory mobile game called Suikoden Star Leap, which is going to start, I think, Japan only, and then if it does well, I'm sure it will come over here and to other regions. And then they also announced an anime, Suikoden anime, which I'm sure that will get. I saw it'll be on Crunchyroll or something. We can watch that. That's based on Suikoden 2 story, by the way.
Yeah,
so
the one that people care about.
This was their step 2 plan of getting Suikoden everywhere. So they just did a big old blowout on Suikoden, and these games haven't even come out yet. So we'll see. Maybe if the games actually do well sales wise, which you can pick them up both for $50.
They'll hire the Iodine Chronicle team to do it.
Maybe they'll do remasters of 3 and beyond or whatever, or they'll do a new game. Who knows? Now we talked about Sims, there's not gonna be a Sims 5. Well, there's now a Sims 4 businesses and hobbies expansion pack. So that is still happening, Mark.
Great.
Tropico 6 Return to Nature is also out that same day. Sugardew Island, your cozy farm shop. I keep getting all kinds of stuff for this game in my inbox, which I promptly ignore because I don't play those games, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that do. WWE 2K25, which content creators are already spoiling on the internet, so beware if you're excited about this game with WrestleMania around the corner.
It only has 12 versions of The Undertaker in it.
Yeah, exactly. They just had Elimination Chamber on Saturday, so people are getting ready for this thing to come out now. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. While we're not around, Wanderstop is going to come out on the 11th. That's that Pop Agenda Annapurna joint. That's about having a tea shop and having weird things happen to you. A weird beat 'em up game about the Phantom is also coming on the 12th to everything. Dungeon Hinterberg comes out for PlayStation 4 and 5. Midnight Murder Club, which is supposed to come to PlayStation at some point, is coming to PC on the 13th. And then MLB The Show 25, which I'm sure Randy already has pre-ordered, is coming out for Switch, Xbox Series, and PS5. And this is not coming to Game Pass, by the way, on the 14th. And just right before, so I might have some thoughts on this as well, because it's coming to Game Pass. 33 Immortals also comes out on the 18th. So, yeah. And then, of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows on the 20th. Xenoblade Chronicles X on the 20th. Altair Yumia, The Alchemist, Memories, something, is coming everything also on the 21st. So by then we'll be back. But yeah, lots of games to look forward to here in this time. So hopefully you find something for you. I'll definitely be playing Xenoblade Chronicles X on the plane back. On the way back. So that's when I come back, is on the 20th. So that'll be my thing to do there.
Right.
All right. So that's it. We will be back in 2 weeks or so. Well, more. I think it's like 2.5 weeks. Saturday, the 22nd. Is when we'll be back with at least one episode, if not two. And then for sure that Monday we'll be back with a show. The 24th, we'll be back to regularly scheduled. And then after that, man, we'll be talking about Switch 2 premiere. Maybe we'll know the price and all that stuff the week after that ish. So, all right. So, see you later, everybody. Ta-da. Bye. Have a good one.
Later.